let's talk about that customer experience and how that computer vision is going to be driven by artificial intelligence. And to talk about that, we're going to get on stage Tushar Ahluwalia, co-founder and CEO of StockBuyLove.com. Siddharth Baid, AVP Lenskart. Ayushi Gudwani, founder and CEO of Fable Street. Sanjay Roy, Executive Director of Sales at Puma. Prashant Bokal, Head of IT, Mandana Retail Ventures. Shashank Agnihotri, co-founder Rust Orange. Jyoti Kaushish, Category Head Shop Clues. Pawan Sarda is going to be back on stage. He'll just be joining us in a minute. And to moderate the session, I'd like to call on Abhishek Jain, VP and Head of International Markets at Unboxed.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. First of all, good afternoon. And I think today what we'll be covering is how do we ensure that shoppers on a website or an app actually are able to find the right products, what they're really looking for. This essentially is the focus of this particular discussion. I'm Abhishek. I head international markets for Unboxed, and I'll be the moderator for the session. I think a quick introduction for all our panelists. We have Sanjay from Puma, we have Ayushi, we have Tushar, and we have Jyotis, we have Sashank, we have Pavan, and we have Prashant from Being Human. I think the first thing that we would like to cover essentially is that what is very interesting is that when shoppers are coming to a website, they're really looking and they're coming with a very high intent to really buy something or explore something. The idea is, do we have the right tools and features to really showcase what they're really looking for? And I think that's essentially what we're going to cover as part of this particular panel discussion. One thing that we have noted as part of our experience working with various retailers is that a shopper is typically coming to either buy for a birthday or a vacation or something, and are we able to curate an experience which matches with their intent? The key question is an e-commerce company able to identify what intent they are coming with? And if that's essentially we are able to match, are we able to understand and actually track that intent as well, which essentially leads to a shopper actually converting as a buyer? So I'll now throw this to the panelists to get your views in terms of how do you today capture user intent and how important it is to understand user intent in the overall sales funnel.
So, see, we run an independent brand site, and we have three types of consumers who are coming up to us. One is the one who's wanting to know about the brand and the brand information. That's one set of consumers who are walking to us, and he's navigating accordingly. He's looking at media content, he's looking at product, he's looking at a lot of other things, but he does not really get into the PTP structure so much. The other kind of consumers is who's very, very specific to what he's searching for, and he's probably come through an affiliate or some other route, and he's directly landing himself on a PTP page, or he's directly clicking on a product and going through. The third kind of consumer is who is not sure, who is still navigating, probably looking for a good deal, looking for a great product. So we have these three kind of consumers. For us, it is very, very critical that all three consumers get a different journey and a different navigation, because each of the consumers will eventually convert, but convert at a different rate if the navigation suits him. So the consumer who is very, very specifically looking for a product, we want to keep his journey extremely simple, try as much as possible to make him land on the PTP page, and that's the end of his story, and he gets all the information. The consumer who is just browsing, wants to get a great look, for him, again, it has to be, again, very simple. What is he looking for? Is it gender, category, price? So again, it cannot become complicated for him, and for us, that navigation has to remain. And the third consumer who's generally looking for brand information, then there is a different navigation for him because he wants to get involved with us. So for us, it is super critical that we know what's the purpose, because if we don't understand the purpose of why he is coming to us, it will be almost impossible to convert him to business. So that's how for us, it's super easy and super critical right now.
Your thoughts?
So I actually have very, very similar thoughts, and I'm assuming that majority of the e-com players online believe that. So the two things that I'd like to add to what Sanjay just mentioned is, number one is that the way we look at the traffic, we look at it in terms of brand awareness, intent to buy, add to cart, and then finally the conversion. And across the funnel, we therefore figure out the journey needs to be different. So the additional point that I'd like to add is therefore the source from which the traffic is coming to on our website actually becomes extremely important to us.
Absolutely.
And that's how you have to think about it. For example, if we look at Facebook, we talk a lot about the brand. If the consumer is coming from a brand-related campaign, we would get them to land on the homepage where we talk about the brand, we talk about the tailored fits, we talk about this. If the consumer is coming from an intent to buy, it is likely that they're looking at some specific products. So they will either come from a very strong Google organic traffic channel or a search engine marketing channel where they would search for a black dress online, or they would come from specific theme-oriented campaign. And using both those channels, we actually pretty much try to get them to land on those landing pages and the listing pages, and then the journey continues. And third is the final element in terms of whether the consumer is like pretty much very close to buying something, is hinting them around this, they've forgotten, cart abandonment, and a couple of those. That channel then we completely track either via emails or we track it via another set of campaigns. And then there is the final landing page where you get them to land at the cart and help them understand a bunch of other answers. So I think that element or that journey is extremely important, and we have to track that journey through end to end.
Understood. The only question that I have on this is, all of this is part of the customer journey, but how do you ensure, most importantly, that the relevancy in terms of what they are really looking for is actually getting displayed to them?
The relevancy?
The relevancy of the product that they are really looking for.
So that I think is because of the product description and the keyword mismatches that you end up doing. We manage to keep everything way ahead on the trend. And we figure that out, and then eventually we have to ensure that the website is very friendly in terms of the hypertext, Google to trail and everything, and search engines. So these would be the two elements around which we look at it.
Sure.
Hi. I would like to take a couple of steps back, actually, look at customer psychology in the context of discovery and context of relevancy. If you were compare our company, our brand, StockByLove.com, is a fashion-forward company. It retails to millennial, urban Indian, female consumer. For our company, the search bar as such is not as important as it is for Amazon, right? For
Absolutely.
Amazon, there are two kinds of purchase behavior here. One is, for us, and it's not black and white, but a large part of our customers, at the point of coming to our website, they don't know what they're going to check out with. They're there with an impulse-based conversion path. So you need to inject the relevancy into the customer. You need to inspire the customer. You need to set up discovery, and that happens, and we were discussing this previously as well, that also happens before the customer even comes to the website, through content, through various kinds of communication with the customer. And so for us, there is a search bar, and I'm sure that there is probably 20 to 25, maybe 30% of transactions that come to us and say, oh, I need to go to a party tomorrow, I have nothing to wear. Those sort of occasion-based purchase paths, they're still there. And, we have our search bar for them, and, there's discovery happening for them through sort of optimized landing pages and technology and whatnot. But I think at least more than 50% on our website, I was speaking to somebody on the flight from Bangalore to Delhi a couple of weeks ago, and she happened to be one of our customers. And she told me, she was we call her sort of student, young professional persona, so very young, Xiaomi phone, and worked at actually at Amazon Global in Bangalore. And she said that, you know, whenever she's stressed, she goes through the new ins, right? And you know, does that mean that she wants to buy at that point of
Maybe
time?
not.
No, probably not, but she is getting inspired. So, you know, getting sort of this understanding what kind of customer do you have, and you don't have one customer, you have many customers, and is it sort of, is it an impulse buy, is it a goal buy, what category are you in, are you selling furniture, it's probably different, right? All of these things sort of come together to define how you think about discovery. And so we think about discovery in both technical terms and as a funnel, you know, where can we catch the customer? For example, if somebody wants to buy a black dress, they search, we put a Google ad, and then they can, you know, land on a landing page, and they have options of 30 black dresses or 40 or 50 or 100 black dresses, and they can check out. Or are there anybody, you know, are there such customers, and we have a lot of them, that, you know, just want to get inspired? Or retail therapy. You know, we always say at Shop I Love, men buy, women shop, right? That's a big difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think to what Tushar and Arushi said, I come from Shop Clues, so for me, SEO, I mean search optimization and understanding the customer intent while coming is extremely important, because we have mobile tablets with us, we have fashion products with us, we have home and kitchen products with us. So if we don't know the intent of the customer, we really don't know how to even, you know, position the right relevant product. Geographically, you want to make it geo, you want to make it specific to the need or want, and then there is no dearth of acquiring customers. There's a huge investment that we do in getting a customer, and converting a customer in a marketplace model, it becomes even more relevant. So for us, it becomes highly, highly important to understand the intent of every customer that has been acquired by marketing to get it into better conversions. Because the catalog, we actually have more than 7 lakh pieces of across multiple categories with us. So that kind of a width, we need to both sides of it, not just the customer, even to encourage our sellers to sell the maximum with us, we have to merchandise it also well. So for us, it makes a lot of sense to, you know, work and focus towards it.
Thank you.
I think in our case, because it's a very niche DTC brand, and we have, as we were discussing, around 250, 300 products on the website, search is not really playing an important role right now. And just to add to what Tushar was mentioning, it's very critical for us to know how the customer is reaching us, right? And long gone are the days, people still go to a Flipkart directly, right? They'll write in the browser flipkart.com and they'll visit that website. It doesn't happen in the case of Rust Orange. Probably they are browsing Facebook, probably they are on Instagram, or maybe they are doing some search somewhere and a Google ad shows up in that news article which they are reading, or a Vogue article which they are reading. So in our case, the intention is already been formed when the customer has seen our ads. Now the ads can be of different formats. It could be a product ad, which is like focusing on a specific product. It could be a brand ad, which is educating a customer about brand Rust Orange. So what we have to ensure is somebody clicking on that particular ad, when he lands upon Rust Orange, his journey on Rust Orange is linked to his intention of visiting us. So if he is visiting us to explore brand Rust Orange, then obviously the pages have to be catered to that intent. If he's visiting us because he liked a particular product which she saw on Instagram, then that page has to be catered to that need. You know, it should not happen that she clicks on a particular dress, she lands up on a random different page. So I think in our case, it's basically mixing the pre-intent of a customer reaching Rust Orange and then catering our website experience to match that intent. So I think as we grow, probably search will become important, but right now this is the focus area for us.
Got it.
Hi. In Lenskart, the current set of experience what we provide to our consumers, starts from our app. As Sanjay also said that, the smooth navigation is very, very important for consumers. The first interaction with consumer happens in our app or on the web page, where we have a 3D try-on. That plays a significant role, where the consumer decides whether he wants to purchase or whether he does not want to purchase. Some interesting fact about Lenskart, what we have seen, the same consumer comes to our offline store also. He is already pre-decided about the product, what he wants to buy, the color, and he comes to the store and places the order. So the entire journey is very, very important, starting from the search engine to moving on to the website or the app, trying the 3D try-on, and then the final selling point happens at our store. And that's the reason we have been, focusing and trying to provide the same experience which we provide on our app as well as our store.
Yeah, hi. As far as Being Human clothing is concerned, we have many tools developed on the website itself to just get the exact intent of the customer. Basically, in our case, many times customer is being diverted from some other social medias like Facebook, Twitter, or WhatsApp, because people are continuously sharing our products on the social medias, and from that link, shopper is landed on our website. Basically, it was the biggest challenge for us that what is the intent of that particular shopper, whether he is just rumbling around or what is the exact intent. Because ultimately, if we can convert shopper into the fruitful customer, that is the main motto of the website. So in our term, from brick and mortar stores, just we say the terminology POS, like a point of sale. So for website, what I believe is that POS should be in a different terminology, like we can say point of search is my point of sale. If we can use my search properly, then that is a point of sale for me.
Exactly.
Hi. So at Future Group, we have a couple of businesses which are online. One is the plus size business, all online. And we've just taken, I think, FBB online a couple of months back. We face a different challenge altogether. I think the fact that we are a very, very strong offline brand, the fact that we are available online, and the fact that creating that awareness, I think that's agenda number one for us. Whenever customers have come, I think our conversion rates are pretty healthy. But I think it's just about consumer. Many a times I hear they believe that it's a catalog site. They don't understand that it's an e-commerce site. So we face a very different challenge altogether, because it all comes from the legacy of offline brand. So once they understand that one can buy it here, our conversions are good. So therefore, different challenge altogether.
This is very interesting. This is more awareness than actually conversion problem.
Because every brand is built in a certain DNA, right? So because if FPB, for instance, it's an offline brand, the fact that you can buy online, many times I hear from consumer, they think it's just catalog. So therefore, I said we have different challenges. But the thing is, once they land, for them to make them shop is far easier for us. Like all plus size business, which is already contributing close to 12 to 13% of our offline stores. So the potential is huge, there's no doubt, but our challenge is different.
All right, thank you so much for all your comments. I think the key takeaway from this particular point, at least in the way we think, is that all of you spend a lot of money essentially on different marketing channels to bring people to your platform. The key problem to solve is, once they are on your platform, are you able to give them an experience which essentially converts into an actual buyer and not just somebody who's really looking around. So now changing gears a little bit and moving to other questions. One key theme that is emerging a lot essentially is the whole focus on personalization, right? In brick and mortar store, you have people who will really guide you and help you in terms of how you really want to personalize that shopping experience. The whole focus is the customer's expectation is that the same experience is offered when they're trying to buy on an online store as well. So as leaders of your respective businesses, how do you think about personalization as an important metric or an important piece in the overall puzzle, and how are you solving it today? So probably Sanjay, if you can just start with it.
So see, we have a very large offline presence and a very large online presence also. So we have about 300 odd stores, retail stores of Puma, and we have this offline. So one of the things that we would always want to do is have a single view of the consumer that we have. The same consumer is going to the store and he happens to come to the site also. We should or want to know his purchase behavior there. If we have his purchase, if we are able to identify the consumers, that's a single view of the consumer. And we are doing a lot of projects around that so that we are able to identify the same consumer in both the places. Once we get the single view of the consumer, we are able to then personalize his own shopping journey. So we know what he has bought, what his behavior has been. He's been buying, let's say, a Ferrari or a BMW or a licensed product, or he's been buying gym wear. Then there is a possibility that you can personalize his experience accordingly. But if you do not have sufficient data information around what he actually wants, then it's almost impossible to personalize the journey for him, because you need a backup data from somewhere to tell how to personalize this for.
Which is the classic cold start problem.
Correct. So our first intent has been trying to migrate or trying to make our offline consumer data available to us on the online space, read from there, try make that happen. It's still a long journey off, but we should reach there. The second part of that is the whole AI or machine learning of it. Today, when people go to a store and they look for something and they don't get it, there is no way that we actually sit and record what is our lost business from that perspective. So when they come on a site and they go on a search, we are getting to see stuff what people are searching for. And when you are able to do that, you are also able to fill those gaps and start personalizing from a product point of view. So there could be category gaps, there could be price gap, there could be product gaps that we are able to see. That is another level of personalization which is coming through. So the personalization thing, while we all talk about, I think it's a bit far away for most of us, because there's a lot of technology hindrances in between we still haven't overcome. But at least for us, I'm telling you, we are going through that in that motion, and hopefully maybe in a year's time, we will be in a place to give something on a personalized manner, not 100% though.
So for us, I think the way we think about personalization is not purely by tech tools or non-tech tools and everything around it. Personalization is an experience that a consumer needs to go through.
Exactly.
Whether it is offline, whether it is online, whether it is an interaction with the brand in any shape or form. That's what we need to look at. So we try to carve out a set of journeys. We have not fully evolved, but at least that's how we think about it. So for the customer who's trying to engage with us for the first time, as a unique proposition itself of the brand, we offer this concept of your fit with 3 body measurements. It's just a brand proposition that we look at, which just creates an enablement of personalization in the space. So consumer automatically starts getting excited that no one else is giving this to me. So why not look at it? So that's the first element, which is a unique brand proposition. The second element is that once a consumer has come on board, then I think, as Sanjay rightly mentioned, given we have been primarily online, we actually quite strongly look at the consumer browsing behavior, consumer purchase journey, and using that to build up the future journey in terms of what products should they see, and the personalization in terms of the channels. Therefore, we can look at our emails, the website, and other elements, even telecalling when we look at that. So when we have engagement with the consumer, we have the data right in front of them. We suggest to them what your body shape looks like. So we do all of that. Having said that, I think there's a lot more that can be done, and we do believe it is extremely important and relevant. The only wariness that I have about some tech tools, and while we run an online brand, is that, personalization should not complicate your experience also too much, that the consumer gets driven away from engaging with you. And that's the only thing I would just generally also step back and think about. Yeah.
Makes sense.
I would like to add 2 things. One is my personal experience with personalization, or what I believe personalization is. Second is I would like to speak about what I think about personalization. And so my first experience with personalization is very, very basic. We did maybe 1 or 2, maybe tens of orders a day, I remember a couple of years ago. And I remember on the same day, I was like, oh my God, the revenue is horrible, what do I do? And we had a set range of products. And I manually changed the ranking of those products. I ended up exceeding my daily revenue target for that day just by doing this. And that was manual back in the day. So at SPL, I think, first of all, I think the term personalization is very confusing. I think personalization on e-commerce shops today is not a point of differentiation anymore. It's just commodity. If you don't have it, you're a loser, right?
It's table stakes right now.
Yeah, it's a commodity. And so at SPL, we have a very, very weird word, so everybody remembers what we mean with personalization. We call it the SS-FART ship. And so what it stands for is search, sort, filter, and rank. Right? So search, sort, filter, and rank is essentially your discovery path. And you just need to have the ability to segment users by cookies and then match them with the past purchase data and then serve them the landing pages that they want and the search that they want, etc. That's all commodity. As a shop, if you don't have this, you are leaving money on the table because your conversion rates are bad. And lastly, I think personalization at SPL, I think, goes one step beyond. So I think traditionally, because we're a vertically integrated player and we are not multi-brand, I think in multi-brand, what you do is you try to sell existing stock levels as well as possible, right? So you say, you have because the most extreme form of personalization is you just sell the customer what the customer wants. That's not true because we have inventory overstocks all over the place, right? So that's not true. So what you actually do with personalization is you have a set of inventory that the buyer has bought in the company or somebody who was on the buying side, and that person may have then done a judgment call whether something is going to sell, a brand is going to sell or not. And what you're doing on the tech side is just to improve that as much as possible, right? But the screw up, it has already been done. So for us, I think it goes one level deeper where we try to, because of our, most of our technologies in our supply side, in our supply chain, through we have a press button system on what we produce, what we don't produce, what styles we create, etc. So we try to take that data and inject it into our supply chain to create ever more improving and customer-centric styles, where then the entire tech layer can also be more effective. So.
Interesting.
Personalization, I feel, is actually subject to the fact that shopping is no longer a need. It's more therapeutic for people. It's more of a social status. If I want to, if I'm going even for a small event, I would like to buy a dress and wear that particularly to that event. I want to have a look. I would create that look and spend on that look and then carry it there. Personalization for marketplaces actually work in a very different way, that we even personalize it to cross-category selling. So if somebody is coming and buy maybe a dress with me, I could personalize and offer shoes to her. I could personalize and offer cosmetics. I could personalize and offer maybe a sling bag or something. Somebody is coming and buying just shoes and is a consistent shoe buyer. I can personalize and offer socks and accessories to them, a travel kit, depending on what it is. So it's a very different interpretation that I keep for personalization, and I think that's all I could say for this particularly.
Sure.
I think personalization is, again, a different concept for us, being a DTC brand. We do our own manufacturing, right? So how we look at personalization is basically curating a catalog for customers, which most of the people are going to like. Personalization actually becomes a challenge if you have a lot of products to offer, right? Let's say you are searching for a dress. You go to a website and they suddenly throw up 1,000 designs. That's where personalization becomes more important. But what if a website only throws up 40 designs? It's very easy for a person to discover 40 designs versus 1,000 designs. So how we look at personalization at Rust Orange is that we use data to create products and manufacture them at our units, which we know are going to sell more, right? So we did an experiment. I remember last year, We used to have almost like 1,000 products on our website. We did a conscious call of reducing the number of SKUs on the website. Right now, we have about 250, 300. Our conversions have actually gone up after the reduction in the number of styles. What we felt was people, when there were a lot more number of products, they were adding products to cart, but they were not really purchasing them. But when you have a focused catalog, which we know is going to sell based on the data which we have gathered before, it's easier for us to showcase it to customers, and it's helping us in our conversions. So that's how we are looking at personalization at Rust Orange.
Got it.
At Lenskart, it is more to do with the browsing history, purchasing pattern of the consumers. In opticals, you don't have much role to play in terms of personalization of the product. Normally, what we do, as Shashank rightly said, it's limited catalog offerings to the consumers have seen higher conversions compared to a vast range of assortment being spread across to the consumers. So it's more to do with the browsing and the purchase history.
As far as Being Human clothing is concerned, we are always keen to give a personalized experience in store. So we want to convey, or we want to take the same experience to our e-commerce stores also. So what I believe, or what we have done, is that we are observing every action on the website by the customer to know the intent. And if any previous history of that customer is available, we can directly suggest as per his choices, like he has some choice of a color or a specific size or a specific category. Plus, we are also suggesting cross-category products as well.
Understood.
Yeah, I think personalization, whether it's online or offline, I think that's how retail should be built. I mean, that's the fundamentals of it. If you look at unorganized, small-time retailers, I think that's one thing which they provide it really well. What happens is, the moment there is a certain scale which is required, I think that's the first thing a retail loses, right? Whether it's online or offline, I think that's the fundamentals. I'm sure each one of us has to work towards it. And obviously, I think there are many initiatives which we are doing, whether it's online, offline, to create that. Ultimately, I think, when a customer walks in and you know that exactly what the customer needs, I think that's a nirvana for any retail, but I think there's a long way to go. I mean, that's all I would put it.
Thank you.
It's a must, yeah.
We have talked a lot about customer experience, customer journey. One thing that probably we have also noticed is, apart from customer experience, customer journey, one very important factor for an eventual purchase to happen, or a customer to decide to buy something or not, after price, design, relevance, is also the availability of the product content. Right? From a content perspective, what we have really noticed, a lot of e-commerce players essentially are still using methods to curate content, or assimilate content in still slightly more rudimentary fashion on CSV files or Excel sheets as well sometimes, and sharing that content across different third-party players or even on their website essentially becomes a challenge, and as a result, overall relevancy and discovery suffers as well. So how are all of you essentially solving this problem, especially people who are carrying a lot of catalog and are actually are receiving a lot of information from other third-party sellers, right? So Jyoti, how do you solve the problem of content today? Probably that'll be very insightful.
So content, I think it'll be very interesting to even ask the audience that how do they really expect the content to be. So maybe, it would be more appropriate on this platform that we ask the audience. We have very young audience here. We have some NIF students. I'm sure all of them experience purchasing online. So how much is the relevance of the content? Because as an e-commerce player, it is very important for me to know from the consumer point of view also. So if you don't mind, can we switch the question and ask them what is the kind of content that they look for, and how much importance do they give to it? And then take the conversation further?
Sure. I think by content, what we really meant was in terms of how the product attribution gets done, essentially how you really describe the product. And is
Yes.
that a challenge that you all see and face on a day-to-day basis?
So we pay a lot of attention to it, but it will be nice, like maybe have somebody from the audience who would like to talk about when they want to go and buy something, and they really read in detail what is the content of the product, maybe a dress if you're going ahead and buying. Do you really understand whether it's crepe, whether it's georgette? Does that really matter to you? Or is it the thing? Maybe have somebody from the audience who would like to answer that.
Hello. I myself had the content at Future Group for the online website, FUB Online. But I am also an avid shopper myself. I shop online too often and too much. Content for me, when I see online, is what I see. I should like it the way you style it. If I buy a furniture online, I should try to recognize if I put it somewhere in my living room, how does it look? You cannot always sell me something that is on a plain white background. You know, it appears the same for fashion. When I see something that is styled well, you know, paired well, I want to buy that and myself try. If I buy a top, I would try looking for a pair, you know, a pair of a matching pant at the same site. Oh, it is styled well. I go ahead and buy that. So the way you put across things in a form of image matters, number one, the most. What I see, how I style, how I see the background, or, you know, in terms of furniture, that could be. Once I've chosen a product, I don't really, it doesn't often bothers me whether to read about the product or not. It is just once in a while I go and see what is the material. You know, it matters sometimes. You're buying a party wear, maybe you want to see how it is, whether inner lining is of cotton, whether it comforts you or not. That's the kind of content we approach. We want something that looks very fashionably well, or something that draws my attention the moment I see it, something which is very standard, which is very robotic, doesn't attract me. I mean, I'm the person.
Can I also answer like a customer?
Yeah, sure.
So there's this brand called March Tea, right? I think when it spoke to me, very basic black and white and green color t-shirt. I think I just bought because of the content. I just didn't buy one, I bought two. I thought it was just fantastic. But coming back to the question, but it's very challenging to create consistency. It's very, very challenging.
So now it's easier for me to answer the question. So we have two sets of customers. One is a loyal customer. So a loyal customer comes with an intent to purchase and has a specific product in mind when they want to come and purchase with us. In that case scenario, the content really matters to us. But largely, if we look at, which is not, if we talk about the loyal customer in e-commerce platforms across, the percentage is much smaller. The larger percentage is of the usual customer who looks at the image of the product, who looks at how the product is looking on the model who's wearing the product, and they purchase it. Of course, the convenience of returning the product is always there in e-commerce. So I don't think the customer really cares. The first thing is that, okay, fine, I can return it if it doesn't look good.
That's an interesting take. Tushar, how do you think about content curation, let's say, in your business?
We've done an A/B test on PDP pages, and we've seen negligible variance if we have images with content or images without content. And so even if you look at global fashion companies that are online, you'll see that on the PDP page, at least the content is reducing more and more, and the images are getting bigger and bigger. In fact, what we understood worked really, really well is UGC, so user-generated content, where users, put their own blogger pictures of, fashion on real women, and then you have that on PDP. That works really, really well, but I don't know how good that is for the search engine, because obviously you need content to be indexed through the search.
I think the way we think about content is, if you have good attribution, the overall quality of discovery improves by a very good measure. So we clearly see that if the attribution is good, because people don't describe the product in just one way. People describe the same product in so many different ways. So I think if a good attribution system is available, I think that definitely leads to better discovery overall is our experience that we have seen from our customer
Also,
base.
I'm not an expert on SEO, so I don't know if there are any implications in terms of ranks. In fact, what we understood worked really, really well is UGC, so user-generated content, where users, put their own blogger pictures of, fashion on real women, and then you have that on PDP. That works really, really well, but I don't know how good that is for the search engine, because obviously you need content to be indexed through the search.
I think the way we think about content is if you have good attribution, the overall quality of discovery improves by a very good measure. So we clearly see that if the attribution is good, because people don't describe the product in just one way. People describe the same product in so many different ways. So I think if a good attribution system is available, I think that definitely leads to better discovery overall is our experience that we have seen from our customer
Also,
base.
I'm not an expert on SEO, so I don't know if there are any implications in terms of ranks for PDP pages and therefore discovery. But I'm just speaking from a user's perspective. I think what we have certainly learned is that at least the people that are on the listing page already and moving them to checkout, we've actually simplified our PDP and added more user-generated content to push them through to the checkout.
Okay, makes sense.
So I actually quite agree with Tushar over here, but having said that, we're very, very active on SEO as well. So from a user perspective, the content that's actually relevant is imagery when it comes to a brand and it comes to the product that we sell, which is apparel. The only other relevance of context is content which they're looking at is sometimes what's the fabric, what's the silhouette of the dress, and a couple of those things. By the way, the other thing we've realized is that women read more content when it comes to shopping as compared to men. So we do put a lot of emphasis in terms of description on the content. That's the user perspective. The back-end perspective is to rank high on SEO and all. We do look at all the attribution characteristics and ensure that we make sure that we upload them where they're probably hidden on the website, but Google can index it so that it can come back. So it's quite important when it is a very direct and intent-oriented search. But from a discovery point of view, from a user experience point of view, that's not as relevant.
All right, thank you. So changing questions, I know we have limited time right now available. One thing that probably we have spoke about a lot essentially is making sure the customer journey, customer experience is very powerful and actually is very unique to each of the customers based on whichever channel that they're really coming from. How, as respective business leaders, you really think about that are these technologies from a discovery perspective, is this something that you think is critical that you have these capabilities in-house, that you build these capabilities in-house and having it? Or do you think it is best in terms of to hire best-in-class services to actually help on these technologies? Probably we can start with you from the Future Group. Yeah.
So as far as we are concerned, I think currently, I personally feel that if we need a certain scale, we need to build everything in-house. Otherwise, I think in this business, speed is everything, right? If that's not addressed, it'll automatically become extremely challenging. But we do both. We work with people best in class, but try to create something which is far more in-house and creates a far more speed for us. But we are in the process. I'm sure these guys are far ahead when it comes to this. But yeah, we are in the process of discovering and creating for us. That's where we are. Yeah.
Understood. Sanjay, how do you think about either having these in-house capabilities or actually for some of them, which is super critical to your business, actually using some technology provider?
I mean, to be very honest, the speed at which technology is changing, it's almost impossible to keep the team updated of the new technology, and they just don't have the bandwidth. Ideally, what we would want to do is have a very strong operations team ourselves, and for all the new technological upgradations which are happening, we would just go out and source it with external parties. I mean, unless you have a massive business and you can afford to bring those talents in-house, it logically does not make sense for, at least for us. We would rather outsource all of this.
And this actually stands for, so not at the cost of talking about Unbox, but we do a lot of business in the US. The trend that we clearly see is that people really want to focus on their core business strength. And I think everything else which is ancillary to them essentially is something which typically gets sourced from a partner who essentially is best in class in that particular activity. But what about you guys? Let's say Stock by Love. How do you do that right now?
So I think technology is probably one of our strongest capabilities. I think we have two CTOs. One is from Stanford, one is from UIUC, and they both started the business. So for us, we are not a typical retailer. For a typical retailer like a Future Group or something, the online would be sort of the 1,001st point of distribution. That's not how we think about online, right? For us, online is of strategic relevance. And I would also not like to call ourselves e-commerce company. I would say we are a digital company, we are a technology company, but we are also a fashion company. And so for us, I think that technology has been from day one in-house and has been very strong, ever growing. And also my experience has been that in some cases, if you don't work with high-quality partners, that there is some sort of principal-agent problem with sort of if you externalize technology.
Sure. What's the take of, let's say, Lenskart in terms of how you guys really think about this?
At Lenskart, we have a mix of in-house as well as outsourced. Recently, we have acquired some stake in an Israeli-based company, wherein, on a mobile app, you can just go and get your eyes checked also. So we do also have in-house talent as well as we outsource also.
Thank you so much, everyone, for the comments. But before we conclude, any questions from any of the audience members, I think, to any of our panelists, we would love to entertain.
Hi, my name is Radhakrishnan. Considering the data privacy laws are getting very stricter day by day, and for doing personalization, definitely data is something which is very relevant as well. How do you guys think that you guys are planning for addressing that challenge?
Anybody would like to answer that question? Can you please repeat the question? Yeah.
My question was related to the data privacy laws. Like, for example, in Europe, if you look at it, GDPR is like very popular, right? So similar to that, India is also thinking of a lot of data privacy laws. And to for example, if you want to do personalization, you need a lot of personal information stored and processed on a regular basis to achieve the the right personalization. Now, these two are actually very contradicting things. Data privacy laws versus personalization. So how do you plan to mitigate that sort of a risk that you might encounter while you talk about all this great personalization?
I actually don't believe that there are contradictory elements around it, and I think there are a lot of technology companies, whether it is a Facebook or a Google, who are already trying to solve that issue. But the most simple answer to that is that, the personalization can be offered at a cohort level, where you don't look at individuals' personal, actual immediate data to look at it, but actually look at cohorts, where you can then create multiple cohorts and work on those. That's the immediate answer that I would gear towards around this. But I think as an organization, all of us would be very concerned about data privacy and everything, but I don't believe it is in conflict with the personalization yet.
The European data privacy law is coming into India very soon, so we're going to have all of it a bit of a problem. We have most of us have ignored it at this point, okay? And the way personalization will work will change, but do remember that in Europe also the consumers have actually not gone on the site and clicked off things which they don't want people to see. So yes, the law has come into place, but not much has happened on it. So India is still a little ahead on that space.
I think just to take her point ahead, one thing that probably we always look at is personalization 1:1 is one aspect, but then as we always believe that personalization works the best when you're doing it in a segment and target perspective. And I think that's where the cohorts point essentially comes along. And I think in that fashion, you you're aggregating data and personalizing it for one particular segment. And then as far as the problem of data loss and privacy, I think there are enough companies which are available who are actually solving this problem. And the business in itself will evolve to make sure that those security risks essentially get solved and are not an hindrance to the business. At least that's the way we like to think about it. Anybody else? Any
I just have a
comments?
small point to add.
I just want to say on the same context that we are basically capturing the data, which is logical data only, and that is to be transactional data. That means what you are roaming around a website, what products you are selecting, what colors you are ideally looking for, because there is a few colors. This I'm talking about our only website and in my personal opinion. So if you like a blue, so you will search for a bluer shades more. So we are capturing that data, and on that basis of we are building our own architecture and providing you the proper solution as a personalized product. So we are not capturing any other personal data. Unless and until you are registered on the website and you are our loyal customer, we are not capturing any other data of yours.
Abhishek.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, please go ahead. All right, I think we are running out of time. We understand that. And first of all, I'd like to extend my thanks to all the panelists for joining us in this session. It was really interesting to know all your take in terms of how product discovery works. Thank you so much.